You know what truly separates you from the person you desperately want to become? It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not connections or opportunities. It's discipline. Pure, unbreakable, relentless discipline. And here's what most people don't understand. When you build real discipline, when you cultivate it to a level that most people can't even comprehend, something fascinating happens. People start looking at you differently. They become uncomfortable around your consistency. Your dedication intimidates them. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to build that kind of discipline. The kind that doesn't just change your life, but changes how the entire world perceives you. So if you're ready to become someone who makes others question their own commitment, stay with me. Let me start by destroying a myth that's probably holding you back right now. Most people think discipline is about willpower. They think it's about white-knuckling your way through things you hate. They think it's about suffering and deprivation and forcing yourself to do painful things every single day. That's exactly why they fail. That's why their New Year's resolutions die by February. That's why they start strong and fade fast. Real discipline, the kind I'm talking about, the kind that actually intimidates people, isn't about suffering at all. It's about creating a system so powerful, so ingrained in who you are, that your default mode becomes excellence. It's about making the right choices so automatic that you don't even have to think about them anymore. When you have true discipline, laziness actually becomes harder than productivity. Procrastination becomes more painful than action. That's the level we're aiming for. And here's the beautiful part. When you reach this level, people notice. They can't help but notice. They see you showing up every single day. They see you making progress while they are making excuses. They see you becoming someone they barely recognize. And it does something to them. It holds up a mirror to their own lack of commitment. Your discipline becomes a silent judgment of their weakness. That's not arrogance. That's just reality. And that's exactly what we're building today. Before we talk about habits or routines or any tactical stuff, we need to talk about something deeper. We need to talk about identity. Because here's what I've learned after years of studying human behavior. You will never outperform your self-image. Never. You can have all the motivation in the world, but if you still see yourself as an undisciplined person, you will always sabotage your progress. Always. Think about it. Right now, you probably identify as someone who struggles with discipline. Maybe you see yourself as someone who starts things but doesn't finish them. Someone who has good intentions but poor follow-through. Someone who's trying to get better but isn't quite there yet. As long as that's your identity, that's exactly who you'll be. Disciplined people don't try to be disciplined. They just are. It's not an effort, it's not a struggle. It's simply who they are. The person who works out every morning doesn't see it as a choice. They're a person who works out. That's their identity. The person who reads every day doesn't debate whether they feel like it. They're a reader. That's who they are. So here's your first assignment, and it's the most important one. You need to decide right now that you are a disciplined person. Not that you're trying to become one, not that you want to be one someday. You are one, starting right now. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is recognizing a truth about yourself that you've been denying. You have discipline inside you. You've just been identifying with your failures instead of your potential. Every decision you make from this point forward needs to be filtered through this question. What would a disciplined person do right now? Not what do I feel like doing, not what's easy. What would someone with unshakable discipline choose in this moment? And then you do that thing every single time. When you start making decisions from this identity, something magical happens. The decisions get easier. The resistance fades. You're not fighting against yourself anymore. You're simply being yourself. And when people see someone who's completely aligned with their identity, someone who acts in perfect harmony with who they say they are, it's powerful. It's rare. And yes, it's intimidating. Now let's get tactical. Let's talk about mornings, because here's an uncomfortable truth that disciplined people understand. Your morning doesn't just set the tone for your day. Your morning is your day. If you win the morning, you win the day. If you lose the morning, you're playing catch-up until you go to sleep. Most people wake up and immediately surrender control. They reach for their phone, they scroll social media, They check emails. They let the world dictate their energy, their focus, their priorities. By the time they actually start their day, they're already reactive. They're already responding to everyone else's agenda instead of pursuing their own. Disciplined people operate differently. They protect their mornings like their life depends on it, because in a very real way, it does. Your morning is the only time that's truly yours. It's the only time before the world makes demands on your attention. It's sacred ground, and you need to treat it that way. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to choose one non-negotiable morning action. Notice I said 1, not 5, not 10, 1. This is crucial. Most people fail because they try to build the perfect morning routine with meditation and journaling and workouts and reading practices and ice baths and whatever else they saw on social media. That's not discipline. That's fantasy, and fantasy doesn't survive contact with reality. Choose one thing that matters to you. Maybe it's a 30-minute workout. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's reading for 20 minutes. Whatever it is, it needs to be something that makes you feel like you've already won before most people have even woken up. Something that builds momentum, something that proves to yourself that you're in control. And here are the rules. You do this thing before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone, before you check email or social media or news or anything else, before the world gets its hands on you. This is your time. This is your non-negotiable, and you protect it with everything you have. Do this for 30 days straight. No excuses, no exceptions. No, I'll start tomorrow. No, just this once. Because here's what you need to understand. Every time you break your word to yourself, you damage your self-trust. Every time you make an exception, you're training yourself that your commitments are optional. And optional commitments aren't commitments at all. They're just wishes. But when you keep this commitment, when you show up for yourself every single morning for 30 days straight, something fundamental shifts. You start carrying yourself differently. You walk with more confidence. You speak with more authority because you know something about yourself that other people don't know about themselves. You know you can be counted on. You know your word means something. And people sense that. They feel it, even if they can't articulate it. That's when the intimidation begins. Let me share something that might make you uncomfortable. If you want to build discipline that truly intimidates others, you need to make your commitments public. You need to tell people what you're doing. You need to share your goals. You need to create accountability that goes beyond just you and your private journal. I know what you're thinking. What if I fail? What if I tell people I'm doing something and then I don't follow through? What if I embarrass myself? Good. That's exactly the point. That fear you're feeling right now, that fear of public failure, that's the most powerful tool you have for building discipline. Here's why this works. When you keep your goals private, when nobody knows what you're trying to accomplish, failure is easy. It's comfortable. It's just between you and your conscience. And you can always rationalize it. You can always tell yourself that you'll start again tomorrow, that this time doesn't count, that you'll do better next week. But when you make your commitments public, everything changes. Now there's social pressure. Now your ego is on the line. Now other people are watching. And most people would rather die than be seen as someone who talks big but delivers nothing. That's not weakness. That's human psychology. And disciplined people understand how to weaponize it. Tell your friends what you're committed to. Post your progress on social media. Join a community of people pursuing similar goals. Create a situation where failure isn't just disappointing, it's embarrassing. Make the pain of quitting greater than the pain of continuing. That's how you build discipline that doesn't break. I've seen this transform people. I've watched individuals who couldn't stick to anything suddenly become unstoppable simply because they made their journey public. They posted their workouts, they shared their progress, they documented their journey. And the thought of letting down the people who were watching became more powerful than any motivation they'd ever had. This is psychological warfare against your own weakness. You're using shame as fuel. You're leveraging your reputation as accountability. And it works. The disciplined few understand this principle. They don't rely on willpower alone. They create environmental and social structures that make success inevitable and failure unacceptable. Here's something that separates disciplined people from dreamers. Disciplined people keep score. They track everything. Workouts completed, books finished, days without breaking their rules, words written, miles run, whatever matters to them, they measure it. Because there's a fundamental truth that every high performer understands. What gets measured gets improved. Your brain loves evidence. It loves proof. When you can look at concrete data that shows you're making progress, it reinforces your identity as a disciplined person. When you can see a visual representation of your consistency, it motivates you to keep the streak alive. The scoreboard becomes both motivation and accountability. Create a simple visual tracker. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can be a calendar on your wall where you put an X for every day you complete your commitment. It can be a spreadsheet. It can be an app. The tool doesn't matter. What matters is that it's visible and it's honest. Put this tracker somewhere you see every single day. Make it impossible to ignore. Every time you honor your commitment, mark it. Watch that chain of X's grow. Watch the numbers increase. That visual representation becomes powerful. Those marks on your calendar become proof. Proof that you're not like everyone else. Proof that you do what you say you're going to do. Proof that you're building something real. And here's the thing about proof. It changes how you see yourself. When you have 30 days of unbroken consistency staring you in the face, you stop identifying as someone who struggles with discipline. You have evidence that contradicts that story. You are disciplined. The scoreboard proves it. This is also where the intimidation factor really kicks in. When people ask you about your goals and you can pull up your tracker and show them 6 months of perfect consistency, they don't know what to say. When they see that you've worked out 150 days in a row or read 50 books this year or written every single day for 4 months, it does something to them. It challenges their excuses. It exposes their lack of commitment. Your scoreboard becomes a mirror that reflects their own inconsistency. But here's what you need to understand. You're not tracking for them. You're tracking for you. The scoreboard is about building unshakable self-trust. It's about creating evidence that you're the kind of person who finishes what they start. When you know that about yourself, when you have proof, you become unstoppable. Now I want to talk about something that most people completely miss. They think discipline is about individual actions, going to the gym today, eating healthy this meal, working on their project this afternoon. But that's not how discipline actually works. Real discipline is about the compound effect. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, you're not just completing a task, you're making a deposit into your self-trust account. You're strengthening the neural pathways that support disciplined behavior. You're reinforcing your identity as someone who does what they say. And just like compound interest, these deposits accumulate over time in ways that seem almost impossible. The person who works out consistently for a year isn't just stronger physically, they're stronger mentally. They've proven to themselves thousands of times that they can do hard things. They've built a foundation of self-trust that extends into every area of their life. When they face challenges at work, they approach them differently. When they encounter obstacles in relationships, they handle them better. Because they know something fundamental about themselves. They don't quit. This is why disciplined people seem to succeed at everything they touch. It's not that they're lucky. It's not that they're naturally talented. It's that they've built such a strong foundation of discipline in one area that it automatically transfers to others. Discipline is a general skill. When you develop it anywhere, you have it everywhere. Think about what this means for your life. When you build true discipline, you're not just achieving one goal. You're becoming the kind of person who can achieve any goal. You're developing the single most valuable trait that exists, because with discipline, everything else becomes possible. Without it, nothing else matters. Let me bring this all together, because this is important. We've covered a lot, but it all comes down to a simple truth. Discipline isn't something you have, it's something you are. It's not about motivation or willpower or forcing yourself to do things you hate. It's about identity, systems, accountability, and evidence. You become disciplined by deciding you're disciplined, then proving it to yourself over and over until it's undeniable. You protect your mornings because that's when you win the day. You make your commitments public because social pressure is the most powerful force you can harness. You track your progress because what gets measured gets improved, and your scoreboard becomes proof of who you really are. And yes, when you do these things, when you build this kind of discipline, people will be intimidated. Not because you're trying to intimidate them, but because your consistency exposes their excuses. Your dedication holds up a mirror to their lack of commitment. Your results make their complaints seem hollow. That's not your problem. That's not your responsibility. You're not doing this to make anyone feel bad. You're doing this because you refuse to be average. The world is full of people who talk about what they're going to do someday, what they're planning, what they're hoping for, what they wish they could achieve. But talk is cheap. Dreams are free. What's rare, what's valuable, what commands respect is execution, discipline, consistency, actually doing the work day after day after day, regardless of how you feel. So, here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop looking for motivation. Stop making plans that you never execute. Choose one thing right now, one commitment, one non-negotiable, something that matters to you, and start tomorrow morning. Before you check your phone, before you do anything else, honor that commitment. Mark it on your calendar, and then do it again the next day and the day after that. Do this for 30 days and you won't recognize yourself. Do this for 90 days and other people won't recognize you. Do this for a year and you'll be unstoppable. Everyone wants results. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants to be respected and admired. But few people want discipline. Few people are willing to do the boring, unglamorous, repetitive work that actually creates transformation. That's your advantage. That's your opportunity. While everyone else is looking for shortcuts and hacks and secret formulas, you're building a foundation that can't be shaken. Build that discipline. Protect it. Honor it. Track it. Make it so strong that it becomes who you are. And watch as the world changes around you. Watch as opportunities appear. Watch as people start asking what changed. Watch as your entire life transforms. They won't understand. They'll think you got lucky. They'll think you found some secret. But you'll know the truth. You built discipline so strong it intimidated everyone around you. And that discipline gave you everything else. Now, stop watching videos about discipline and go build it. I'll see you at the top.